Hi, everybody. It's Susan again, and this time I have a wonderful guest for you. I'd like to introduce you to Bukola, who it was introduced to thanks to the algorithms on YouTube. One day I saw a video pop up in my feed, which was a numerology video about the number 9. And as I am a life path 9, 27/9, I thought, oh, I'll have a listen. Why not? So I was doing the ironing while I was on retreat, and I thought, oh, I'll have a listen. And it was really wonderful. It really resonated with me. And as I kept listening, I got deeper and deeper into this person. I thought, I have to get to know this person. It's just extraordinary insight. So Bukola is somebody who is a profound thinker, very diverse kind of energy pulling in numerology, astrology, all kinds of different references from different cultures. And I find him, and my ninth house stellium finds him fascinating. And I hope you will too. So, Bukola, welcome on my channel. I was
Thank you.
thrilled that you said yes to our little chat, and I'm really excited to introduce you to my people. I have a number of astrologers, numerologists also on my channel who follow me, and I'd be
Wonderful.
delighted to introduce you. So, can you just give us a little introduction to how you got into all of this, and then we'll see where we go from here.
Well, I'm first of all, I'm very excited to be here. I'm very excited to be a part of any coming together or any practice of reaching and understanding, dissolving forms and coming back to the unity of things. I always look forward to such opportunities, and I'm very thankful that you could invite me to be a part of this one. I really look forward to and pray that we can accomplish a lot, by sharing what we learn. What really brought me to astrology, numerology, and many other practices, disciplines, even gnosis, as a teenager. I would say I was 14 years old. I I borrowed some of my brother's books, as he was transferring from uh, a penitentiary. He was doing time in prison, and he had a library of books. And one of the books was the only, the title was the only astrology book that you will ever need. I believe that's the title. It's so long ago. And I picked that book up and I kept it for myself. And, we sent his other books back as he transferred to a different facility. And that was my first experience with astrology, and I was fascinated since that time. And because I'm a life path number 9, obviously it was destined for me to experience a lot of spiritual or even, religious exercises, throughout my life. And it just so happened that with astrology being more foundational for me, everything got filtered through it. And that's how I came to see the unity through astrology, um, in all things that I learned.
Excellent. Oh, amazing. Wow. So, yeah, this is did he notice that you kept a book?
I don't think he noticed that I kept the book. He never
Okay.
expressed anything about it.
I was thinking about that.
So
That's the best title ever. Like, that's truly the
yes,
best title ever. I have to look for that book. Um,
yes.
Well, yeah, I mean, like this is the one thing about being a 9, as you indicated. Maybe I'll link that video below because certainly a few of our listeners will be 9s, no doubt. There is always a sense of catastrophe may be too strong a word, but a loss or a longing that is created by some kind of worldly suffering, and you cannot but help but kind of grow through whatever it is. With the 9, it's kind of like you're thrust into this position of having to go through this sort of perpetual feeling of being torn apart, and then you reconstruct yourself and then teach somebody about it.
Yes.
And it's kind of this. This was the resonance that I had immediately when I was hearing you, and there's a recognition of a suffering, but it's a suffering that's not like it's not whingy. If you know what I mean. Like, it's nobody's complaining. It's just that, oh Christ, life is hard. And then you just have to keep going. And so the suffering is there, but the suffering is like the compost, and it just keeps you moving forward, and it keeps you growing in
Compost.
different directions.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I heard in your voice. That's what I heard in your talk about the number nine. I've watched many of your other videos in the meantime, and I will link your channel in the description box below. Remember, people, that there is a description box below every video on YouTube, and that's where you find all the information, all the details. So please click on that, where it says more dot dot dot. You click on that, and you'll find all those links and details there.
Thank you.
So I want you to just, let's say, share whatever comes to your heart, but I want to pick up on the thread there of the nine and the suffering and the life experience that brings you to a depth of understanding of life itself through the lens of the Virgo-Pisces axis, because as you, I'm sure, would
Mm-hmm.
like to relate to us, there's a lot of the energy of Pisces and Virgo is about this self-sacrifice, or the suffering and the martyring and all of the victimization that can filter through that if we don't just move through it. So
Yes.
whatever you feel like you'd like to pick up on there, I'll turn it over to you for a while and let you just carry on, and then we can jump in later and catch up and see where we're going.
Okay. I really appreciate the questions. The questions are really foundational to give me access to what I otherwise probably wouldn't look into or weigh. But because you asked this question, it causes me to weigh out with a fresh mind something that could really be helpful for me to weigh out with a fresh mind. And that's the fact that the life path 9 at the Virgo and Pisces axis, this now becomes a common life path for humanity. Humanity is now going down this life path. And it's weighing and compromising between, the 9 and the 7. The 9 and the 7. And the 9 has to learn to dissolve the form and control of ideas, concepts, things that we are familiar with, things that we've mastered, things that we see as so efficient in life. And we end up falling back into a place with ourselves where we have to realize that there's something behind us that we really can't afford to trust. And there's something surrounding us that is source and not just resource. So we start to learn that I don't have to be so ambitious, and I don't have to be so controlling, and I don't have to be so fearful about what I have or don't have. And what Pisces does on the opposite end of that Virgo impulse that I just described, short in describing that, is the Pisces impulse allows us to let go of the cognitive control that we have, the cognitive impulse that we have to read the room and read the environment. I must have this, I must do that, I must be worthy of this, I must be qualified of that. And to re-identify ourselves with spirit. When we do, we start to take notice of things that only Pisces can reveal to us, that all of those things that you're relating to, all of those things you're identifying with, those are forms. And those forms found limitation when it was formed. And I want to remind you of the limitlessness that all of it came from, and that you also came from. But to do that, you need to afford yourself some trust. And to do that, you have to also afford yourself some humility. I've gotten so efficient and I've gotten so masterful with this physical realm, with the 6 house themes, which Virgo rules, of knowing what recipe, what formula, what ritual to do to get exactly what I need or want. And if I emphasize a little more, If I get a little better, I can keep it longer. I can protect it. I can keep on identifying with it and reassure myself that I'm okay, I'm secure, I'm well, in other words. I like to use the word well-being with Virgo. And Pisces has a different approach to things, you know? And it says, that's great, you know, Virgo. You have a really good point, but that left-handed view that you have, it has limitations in spirit, but it certainly has access to abundance in the physical realm. You know, you're doing really great, but what about this, where you came from, Pisces? Let me dissolve some of that for you. So with Pisces, we're learning, and this earth, as long as we stick with the agreement that we came for, we get per diem for showing up to do it. You know, we get per diem to show up to do it. It's you know, I've been a union carpenter, you know, out of New York City. And there are projects that we do all over the 5 boroughs. And I've picked up projects all over America, you know, different states and cities. And the ones that we carpenters, craftsmen, that we like to pick out is, okay, is there per diem in this package? You know, how's it going? You want me to go out there for a month, but you don't want to provide per diem? No, thank you. I'll stay right here. You know, so it's the same thing. And you start to realize, wow, you know, I get per diem by dissolving into spirit. You know, I've never looked behind me and didn't have what I needed, but I seemed to be attached to what I wanted. And I never looked behind me and I was done unjust, but I'm attached to how I think justice should have went. But Pisces helps us to dissolve those things and to come to an understanding. Understanding, that's the biggest part. You know, you stand understanding and compassion together, they look like twins, you know, like, hey, what's your name? Oh, I'm sorry, your name's Compassion. Oh, I thought you understand. You look just alike. I'm sorry. You know, so uh, it gives us access to understanding and compassion, but you have to suffer to arrive at the understanding. And the suffering is really the pain of detachment. That's what Virgo comes in at. You know, Virgo already leads with a detached, logical disposition to things, you know, in order to reach efficiency and perfection. The only thing is that becomes the point of crisis where the pain enters. It enters through that. And that pain comes right between what we want to hold on to and what we are sometimes afraid to embrace. And wherever there is pain, just like Rumi said, there's, you know, obviously the access for enlightenment. That's where the light comes in, you know?
Yeah.
And so now we're manifesting the number 9. You know, it seems like I keep losing things. It seems like I don't get to play with the people who look like they're having a lot of fun over there. You know, those shiny things are really nice. You know, I had a few and I lost more than I had. You know, can I make sense of that on a mathematical scale? You know,
Yeah.
but I keep gaining things that I can only understand through Pisces. Pisces seems to understand that there's value in things that did not take form.
Beautiful.
And
Yes.
I learn a lot about that there's value in many matters that do not take form. And we're going to learn to stop concentrating so much on taking value in things that already have form.
Yeah. So beautifully expressed. That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason that I really wanted to pull you in to this conversation was because I wanted to set up our sort of imminent entry into the new eclipse cycle, which will be the Pisces and Virgo axis. And I wanted
Mm-hmm.
to introduce the overall kind of feeling of Virgo and Pisces, and especially as the North Node is in Pisces, with the emphasis on that being our kind of direction. And then later on, I'll help people understand that on an individual level. But for now, I really want people to start to think about this, because the condition of our world, and I'm afraid, I have to at least mention it, even though it's so obviously horrible, but the condition of our world is such that if we don't access this Piscean energy that you so beautifully described, then we really suffer in life. And the suffering can be this feeling of, I think, if I've understood you correctly, this kind of feeling of, I didn't get my per diem, or I don't have my stuff, or I don't have
Right.
things the way that I want them. My
Yeah.
world is not shaping up the way I wanted it to,
Yeah.
or the way that makes me feel comfortable. And so maybe you can follow on with this idea then of how do we work with this energy of Pisces? Collectively, that's a pretty big ask, but let's say at least an individual on their journey through this really challenging time. How do we work through this energy of Pisces to embrace that understanding?
I love these questions. I love these questions because it helps me to come to an understanding. Uh, so the first thing that I think about with Virgo is where we have mastery. And where we have mastery, we expect control. And that control shows up in so many ways that we have not yet grown to identify as control. Slips right past us, you know, slips right past us. And we're being taught to identify control so that we can release control. But how do you do that if you're not in a crisis with control?
Mm-hmm.
So we have to attract crisis with control. And that's through losing control.
Mm-hmm.
And that confrontation with facing, what do I look like and what does my life look like when I don't have the control that I'm used to having? You know, what happens then? Now, with mastery, we could associate perfection. But there's something interesting about perfection. Every time I hear the word perfection, I remember when I think I was 20 years old. I'm 41 now, but I believe I was 20 or 21 years old. And I was at the masjid listening to, what's called a khutbah, a sermon. And the imam who was given the sermon or the khutbah, he was explaining about one of the last ayah or verses that Allah or God, however you want to call the Most High, had revealed to Prophet Muhammad. And what he explained in that ayah is, I have now perfected your religion for you, and I have called it Islam, which doesn't indicate separation, but a unity of all gnosis and theologies that we've been accumulating over time. Um, it's unfortunate how we create division out of things. Don't mean to interject that, but
Fair
anyway,
enough. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so um, if something is perfected, there was a companion, a close companion to Prophet Muhammad. His name was Umar bin Khattab. And Umar bin Khattab started to weep. He started to cry. And the people asked him, Umar, this is something to celebrate. Why are you crying? What happened? You know? And he's bringing them to the realization the only thing after perfection is to maintain.
Hmm.
So, what if the people do not maintain? What if they are not consistent? What if they are not prudent? What if they don't have the perseverance? It goes down from here. You know, so if I'm a master of something, I want to maintain that mastery and I want to keep things as they are, or I want to expand what I have already perfected. And the tragedy that comes with that is my ego gets tempted to start identifying with that mastery. And now I'm tempted to become a tyrant.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm tempted to become a little arrogant. And now I'm tempted to take assumptions of myself with my jurisdiction, the authority I was given in this skill or craft or wisdom to abuse power. So there's a natural remedy that just it's like natural herbs. In fact, I have this mullein in front of me right now. As a matter of, you can speak about it, but it's like a natural herb. It doesn't just take care of one thing; it takes care of so many things. Unlike pharmaceuticals, and so Pisces is no different. It's a solution for the predicaments that we could put ourselves in with Virgo. And already I'm describing a north and south node axis. We're due for oil change at the south node. And at the north node, we're shopping around for the proper oil. Do we have high mileage right now? Has this engine been abused? Synthetic, 1030, 530, I don't know, whatever. So we're trying to bring in what's appropriate for where we have evolved. We need a solution. And of course, that's how the polarities work. One polarity is a solution for the other's deficit. So if we have a crisis in Virgo, we need to bring in a little Pisces to find remedy. Now, you've perfected all these things. You become a master of carpentry. You become a master of doing hair. You become a master of building houses, a master of making cars. Okay, great. How do we go further? Dissolve. And if we're going to dissolve, chaos is required. We have to have some chaos. Without chaos, order cannot have continuance. And in Ifa Yoruba African spiritual tradition, which I'm a Babalawo of, I have been taught that in the beginnings, there was a particular Orisha or force of nature. His name is Obatala, the father of Orishas or forces of nature. We can understand him indicated through Jupiter, okay? Obatala, the chief of the white cloth. He was given orders by Olodumare, or God, okay, to manifest and expand light through expansion and contraction. He was also given the assignment to make man, okay, to form man. He got drunk off of palm wine as he was doing so, okay?
It's very
and so, okay, yeah, there you go. You see, okay, Susan, thank you. Oh, it's wonderful. See, it's like a great painting. You put the perfect color. Thank you very much. Exactly. Okay. So there's Pisces somewhere everywhere. Okay. Thank you so much. And so he got drunk off of palm wine and he couldn't, complete tasks. So his brother Odudua had to come and do it. Now, his brother Odudua, this is the Orisha of the womb. Okay. Both in the sense of the archetype and the physical manifestation, in which a woman is entrusted, to carry its divine force, okay? The womb. Without the womb, there's no continuance of what has been perfected. There's no continuation, and I remember there was a particular minister in my earlier years, and when I was in service with the FOI, Fruit of Islam, they taught about triple stages of darkness in which we are born through. And in the triple stages of darkness, we don't get to see or witness the mysteries that are behind coming into birth. All of that relates to Virgo, the mysteries of coming to birth. And then Pisces involves the darkness from whence those mysteries come from. Okay, so this is the perfect axis of Virgo and Pisces, coming to be born or reborn. You understand? Now, Odudua, being the Orisha of the womb, he continued the formation of man and woman on behalf of Obatala. Were it not for his intercession or intervention, we could not have the principle of multiplication. continuance, birthing and rebirthing. You understand? So this was the introduction of that principle through that imperfection, you know? And so imperfections bring in opportunity. Chaos brings opportunity for expansion, growth, deeper wisdom, deeper understanding, and all of that affords greater compassion and understanding. You know, if I'm so rigid as a master that everything has to be a certain way all of the time in my life, I'm getting high blood pressure, I'm stressed out, I'm stressing
Yeah.
everybody else out. But Pisces comes along like, you know, you need to lighten up. Lighten up. I got to do it like this, and it has to be like that, and it's got to be like that. And so Pisces is okay if you want to do that, fine, but you could also lighten up. And so
Exactly.
chaos comes about from releasing so much control, you
Right.
know. But on the other end, you learn things that expands your mastery because you allow it to dissolve.
So can you say more about the dissolution of things? Because the way I understand this Piscean dissolution, or certainly the way I've experienced it personally, has been a lot to do with obviously material things disappearing, including people, and certain relationships and so on, but more on a personal level, a dissolution of an attachment to ego. So there's a softening, a constant sort of softening of identity, and it can lead to, at times, a confusion for some, or for, in different stages of life, a confusion around identity, and it can also lead to a certain freedom, uh, being free of identity, which in our culture often is mistaken for mental illness. And sometimes it is, it would be for some people, but
Mm-hmm.
it can also be that ultimate freedom of, speaking differently or acknowledging yourself differently or acknowledging life differently, that for me represents that dissolution. Can you add some thoughts to that? Because I think this is something that would be, particularly right now, building up in the months ahead, really helpful for people who are struggling with such
Sure,
polarization, so much polarization, um,
sure,
culturally, politically,
sure.
racially, socially, all these things, economically.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So Virgo is where we have to have a concentration to efficiency and reproduction of quality. Okay, efficiency and reproduction of quality. But what are we making efficient and what are we reproducing to meet standards of quality? So Pisces has to dissolve what that means or what it is that gets reproduced to a standard of perfection. Pisces is dissolving what it is that we are collectively agreeing to come together to master and perfect and repeat. Okay. And so, just as you stated with identity, Aries is having a lot of changes and transformations right now. Okay. And that goes right along with identity. And with Aries being at the North Node, we're not having a new identity, but we're returning to identity. You know, it's a restoration of the acceptance of identity. Okay, and this is by coming out of the court of public opinion or having so much invested in what others are putting into what that should be. Okay, and instead listening to the heart center on what that should be. Now, as at the same time as Saturn goes through Aries at the first decan transit of North Node through Pisces, this will be a time where we get introduced to the jurisdiction and authority around identity. Because even though we're downloading it, we have to get introduced to the jurisdiction and authority or become competent with it. You see, we have to become competent with identity as well. This way, we don't abuse or misuse power, causing harm to ourselves or others through expression of that identity. Now, at the same time, what Pisces is doing, it's dissolving the old concepts that we had and how the public uh, art of life was informing who we are. Now, essence of spirit is to inform who we are rather than art of life. you see. So the idea of art of life informing who we are, this is indicated through the South Node Libra, okay, which is the attempt to make art of life. Life is artful, but to make art of it, are two different circumstances, And so Pisces is helping us to let go of that so that we could return back to the expression of I am, okay, the I am. Now, all of this together forms Aquarius because it's just like skin cells, each cell is its own person, its own authority, its own world, and dividing itself and rebirthing itself. So if every person is not manifesting their I am, their first house, their rising, their ascendant, the expression of the sun and Mars within themselves in pursuit of their north node individually, then we are manifesting Aquarius. You see, if we all show up in duplication of each other or duplication of the art that we see from, television, magazine, social media, we're showing up through Leo rather than Aquarius. You see, so collectively we have to show up as ourselves so that our gifts are with us by community, by tribe, by village. And this restores the expression of we, the people. 1776, we're back at the same place again, where Pluto was teaching us these things, and, Pluto's about to repeat the course, reteach the course that is, we, the people. And so we're generating the return of the power to the people. Pluto, power to the people, Aquarius, and that would mean every person's Aries first house Mars being empowered. But where there is power, there must be authorization, lest there be oppression. And so that explains Aquarius going through Aries so that there's authorization, so that there is less probability for oppression.
Mm-hmm. So that identity that is the North Node currently in Aries, and the shedding of old ways of living, which is the South Node going through Libra, then Pluto in Aquarius is creating a new relationship amongst ourselves within society, and then Pisces as the North Node fifth, and as we see in September, the first eclipse coming through with at least the moon in Pisces, lunar eclipse. The North Node will still be in Aries, so it's still a very important element right now in terms of that individuality.
Yes.
And the agency, we could call it, or the choice of the individual. But then that Pisces is the invitation to dissolve an aspect of that. So how would you see that, again, that Piscean influence on, like, how is that now breaking down? So we got the Pisces is bordered by that Aquarius where Pluto is, and the Aries where we have the North. Chiron is there too. Eris, I don't know if you work with Eris, but I like to look at Eris, especially the last couple of years. It's been in a square to Pluto, which has created quite a lot of tension. But then we have this sort of sandwiched in the middle. We've got Saturn, and we've got now the moon at the 18th of September eclipse, and then we've got Neptune on the other side of that, sandwiching in there. So it's really like there's an enormous amount of focal point on this choice, let's say, of how to act within the collective, how to feel about that, and then to somehow dissolve or change something about that. That is sort of informed by the sun, which is in the opposite sign of Virgo. And all of that is also in relationship to Uranus. So very strongly, sun is trining Uranus. The moon is, and also Neptune is in a sextile to Uranus, and Pluto at that time is trining Uranus. And so it's all there. It's all there.
Absolutely.
What do we do? So what do we do about all that?
Okay, so you tried the greatest details of this, which first of all, with Uranus, this is who is authorizing our form in the future. Our form in the future. Uranus is who says it will be on this wise and it will be this direction. And it's not going to be the way that you thought.
Right, for sure.
And it's not going to be the way you imagine,
Spoken like a
because
nine.
I'm that special. You know, I'm that special. There's no way you can figure it out. Are you? You know, no, you're not going to guess. All right, I got surprises. And so, um, with Neptune standing favorable to that, Neptune is purifying, but is purifying according to how the alchemy has to come together with where Uranus wants to go. Okay, because purification for one thing is not purification for another.
Mm.
You know, and for example, if I sterilize, say a kitchen, or or a bathroom, or sterilize a motor, in a car, I can't use the same chemicals, to sterilize. You wouldn't want to use what you use to clean, an engine, to clean, your cooking utensils.
Right. Yeah.
So, so sterilization has to look different. So Neptune is sterilizing these codes going through Pisces. It went through Pisces to sterilize all of these codes, all of these degrees, all of these Sabian symbols. It is sterilizing. And when it goes back direct, it will go back at the degree, which is we reap what we sow. Pisces 27, 26 to 27 degrees progressing. We reap what we sow. That sterilization is coming through a karmic responsibility, that we all will inherit. It's so beautiful how all of us working together. I just see so many things now. With our access into the future, according to Uranus, it makes sure that it's accommodating how we need to show up with Aquarius. Now, Pluto is transferring power and transformation from Capricorn to Aquarius. With Capricorn, it was the number 8 shadow Ahrimanic challenges that we've had with capitalism, materialism, and structures in the world that had us to emphasize our physical existence while sacrificing our spiritual substance in value, our needs in spiritual, in spirit. With Aquarius, power has to look different. So we have to get prepared in all of our other bodies to show up in that way, and how power needs to look different. So power is not going to be according to the number 8 Ahrimanic impulses of materialism. It's going to look more of the collective humanitarian solution finding, coming together to be what we need for each other. This is a beautiful time to be in, as revolutionary as it is. And that's what's being prepared as revolution. But revolution can't come before revelation. Revelation has to come first, and that's Uranus revelation.
Right.
And
Right.
that revelation, it demands a response, it demands a reaction, it demands a change. And that's how the country was founded. And so we are reestablishing a new country, in a sense, a renewal of a country, in a sense. So the outcome will certainly be favorable for the people in the long run. But we're dissolving how we related and showed up to Capricorn, because now we have to show up to Aquarius together, not Capricorn together. The coffee mugs, everybody in a long line in black, long suit coat, stuff like that.
Yeah, the Wall Street. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, Rothschilds, Rockefellers, and all these other different.
Yeah.
People in their hearts already bailed out of it, and you can hear it in the youth. You can hear it in the children.
100%.
Young
Oh, for
people
sure.
are out. Yes,
They're not buying into it
they don't
at
want to
all,
participate in that.
Yeah, it's exactly that, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. And
Absolutely.
have you still got a bit of time for us? Can you stick around just a little bit longer? We can go a wee
Yes,
bit.
I do. I can go to the
Okay.
last minute.
All right,
Yes,
fantastic.
I can
Okay,
make it to the last.
excellent. Because I know you do have to go, but I don't want to abuse of your time. So I will definitely want to talk to you again. We'll keep this conversation alive. So, um, I don't
Sure.
know if you noticed when you mentioned Orisha before. As soon as you said the word that came out of your mouth, there was a bird chirping in the background. I know it was your side, not mine, because
Huh?
in a different time.
Yes, yeah,
Did you hear
yes.
it? Just started chirping.
I didn't hear, but it happens so often that
Yeah, right on
I
time,
almost
like bang
expected that.
on. You said Orisha, and then tweet, 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 and then carried on for a little while after. And then I'm not
Uh-huh.
hearing birds, by the way, anymore. So there you are. I just found it
Okay.
really interesting. Um, and yeah, so I'm fascinated about this whole, our shift in consciousness or our shift in relationship, let's say collectively. It's something that
Hmm.
I have. I have a lot of, let's say, I reflect on it often because there is part of me where, in this typical sort of Piscean way, I just want to go to my corner. I just want to go to my corner and I just want to say, screw it all. I'm going to just do my thing and I'm going to disappear and I'm going to switch. And I also, as you know, I've got this Cancer rising and sun, and I'm just like, I'll be fine in my own little corner, take care of myself
Oh wow. Yeah.
and let everybody
Yeah.
else
Right.
go, whatever. And then that
Yeah.
number 9 and all the rest of the Piscean energy there comes through and says, no, you have to do something and you have to say something. um,
Uh-huh.
and so, it is this kind of personal tug of war between the do I withdraw and just give up? And I suppose that's part of that victim energy, which is a bit of a victim energy that is, it's dolled up by the idea that I'm just going to do my own spiritual work. But then there's another part of me, again, I suspect it's, of course, the whole chart is always speaking, but it's the Pluto Uranus that's conjunct opposing my ninth house stellium in Pisces, and it just says, get the hell out the door and do something. So, in your way,
Right.
I know you're like probably you could say one generation younger than me. You're 41 now, so you were born in, I suppose you have Pluto in Scorpio. Is that right?
Hmm.
Yeah, and so
Uh, it was just entering Scorpio. Yes, just
just in the
entering
beginning,
Scorpio.
okay. Are you at the end of Sag or the beginning of Scorpio? You're like zero
It's at
year?
29 Libra.
Sorry, I meant
It's at
Libra.
about
Yeah, that's right. So 29,
sure,
okay. So yeah, you're ending
sure.
that story. Yeah, you're moving on to the
Mm.
threshold of the next thing. So, um,
Right.
so that seems to be like a generation, let's say, after me. And so I'm just curious how do you hold that space? Now, obviously, you've got a different sort of configuration to work with, but where are you on that that desire to just say screw it all and let them all figure it out, and then this need to, because I know again as a 9 there's almost like a compulsion around teaching, like I go in the grocery store and I'll teach, it's
Right.
like I can't stop myself.
Right.
And so where are you on that spectrum? How do you deal with it, and how do you philosophize your way of
Hmm.
interacting with people and reaching out into our social condition now?
Okay, so I love this question because it reminds me of a lot of the conversations that I've had with uh, some of my clients in doing readings. And when it comes to the number 9, this is a grandmother or grandfather's life path. And the grandmother or the grandfather is not like the mother or the father in relation to the child,
Mm.
and what the witness what's taking place. We get to see the world through a detached view because of what the number 9 has to process through. And as I'm speaking about the number 9, this has everything to do with South Node
Mm.
Virgo. So South Node Virgo is to reconcile with uh, mastery, control, and attachment. Mastery, control, and attachment. Reconcile. So losses are part, taking L's are part of how you regain yourself. So as you lose these things, you regain a part of yourself.
Mm.
And as you let go of these things, you obtain and embrace a part of yourself that was meant to be with you, not lost, or dissolved into the physical realm. So we're trading values, we're trading goods. You understand? I'll give a part of my worldly image if I can have back a part of my spiritual identity.
Mm.
So it's like you're negotiating for pieces of yourself to take back. You know, and so with that being said, Virgo South Node, that's the number 9 divine masculine hermit card. This is Virgin Mary giving birth to baby Jesus, Isis sitting Osiris on the lap.
Mm-hmm.
We go through that tunnel, we go through that process, and we come out illuminated with the realization of ourself as being reborn. Knowing that being reborn gives us access to an understanding that brings the picture together. And in bringing that picture together, we now have dissolved into Pisces, which is acceptance and understanding in and of itself. Oh, all of this is connected. I thought this was separate from this, and I thought that was the other, and I thought this. Oh, it all goes together. Oh, I see. But we had to let go of so many parts of ourselves to arrive at that understanding. Why? We were too dense and too heavy in Virgo. And so that density, as we trade parts of ourself for spirit, we lose density and we rise to the bird's eye view or the grandfather's view where we can see the full picture. And seeing the full picture, we've arrived at understanding and compassion. You know, um, there's a comedian, his name was Patrice O'Neill, great comedian. He said once, we can't understand someone who we're attached to, you know.
Mm.
And,
That's
and
why the kids
so,
never listen to their mothers.
you understand, you see.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and the stoic fathers around the corner, like, yeah, the kids, blah, blah, blah. Oh, how did you know that? Yeah, whatever. So he's sitting there reading the newspaper and he's figured it all out, one glance. It's not because he's wiser or smarter. It's just that he might be a little less attached.
Yeah.
And just say
Yeah.
the grandparents see the children, and while they're walking out of the car or they're going up to the picnic scene, they're calling out all of the details. Oh, you haven't taken him to the doctor yet? Yeah, every time he does that, he starts coughing like that. And I know exactly what it is. Oh, exactly like that because you did that when you were younger. Now it's like they know all this stuff. It just rolls right out because they're not attached. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and so they have a view of understanding.
Mhm.
And so as humanity, we're going to learn to not be so attached so that we can have the bird's eye view as a collective. And that's how we will manifest the watchman uh, at the bow of the ship.
Hmm.
We're on this ship, and now we take turns watching, as we navigate through the seas, and we're able to see where we're going now so that we can intentionally create the world that we want to bring in. But it takes understanding to do that. And it also takes experience, what doesn't work. Um, this, I have to share this part. This reminds me, I work with this great guy. His name is Chicken. And Chicken was this skinny fellow, and his hard hat was just way bigger than his body. And everywhere he walked, the hard hat was just bobbing up and down. And he had these missing teeth in the front and everything. It looked like he's been through 30 wars with a hammer. And so he taught me some of my first lessons, in carpentry. And he said, young man, you got to just understand what it can do and what it can't do. That's when you know what it can do and what it can't do. And it always stuck with me, with that. So,
It's this
yeah.
simple wisdom that's like it's so obvious and yet so profound. I love that
Uh-huh.
kind of thing. It's like it's so
Absolutely.
obvious and so profound. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, before time goes, I
Mm.
want to share a detail with you, please. I have to. I feel
Okay.
so compelled to share this. Um, with your permission. So, um, I have this book, The Constitution of the United States of America, okay, and selected writings of the founding fathers, okay.
Mhm.
In it, there are many writings of the forefathers.
Mhm.
Now, John Adams was writing a letter to George Wythe, April 1776. Okay. So 1776, the same energy from Pluto was posing on us, the people. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, it's interesting how, even in his writings, we can hear the same essence is present. The same
Okay.
thing is present. Okay. So I want to share some quotes.
Yeah.
This quote, first of all, because as the well, let me start back. If I was equal to the task of forming a plan for the government of a colony, I should be flattered with your request and very happy to comply with it. Because as a divine science of politics is a science of social happiness, and the blessing of society depend entirely on the constitutions of government. This access, you see, government how? Govern how? Virgo. Okay, we have to dissolve what was so that we could collectively see the view of how, Pisces. Now, if I fast forward, um, nothing is more certain from the history of nations and nature of man than that some forms of government are better fitted for being well administered than others. We ought to consider what is the end of government before we determine which is the best form. What is the end of government? Pluto backtracking to 29 degrees. This gives us insight into what is the end of that type of government.
Beautiful.
You see, this is just amazing.
Yeah.
We upon this point, all speculative politicians will agree that the happiness of society is the end of government, as all divines and moral philosophers will agree that the happiness of the individual is the end of man. So we're reconciling with these things, form and dissolution of form.
Yeah.
And of course, Pisces brings us to understand unconditional love and to work in accordance with unconditional love, which is the greatest power of all things. Unconditional love. We can't access that except through detachment,
Right. Yeah.
you know.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I want to add, since you're bringing that, the Constitution in there, and this, the progressed U.S. Pluto is right where Pluto is coming back uh,
Mm-hmm.
in September, October, November, and so although it's still in orb of the natal Pluto for the states, it's the progressed
Mm-hmm.
Pluto. Where are we going in this moment? Where is everybody going?
Yeah.
I don't get a look in really in the States, but at least, from the point of view of the American progression that affects all of us.
Mm-hmm.
But I also wanted to mention that the Constitution and a lot of the governmental structure that the U.S. is founded on is native. It comes from indigenous tribes of the
Absolutely. Yes.
Americans, and so that quality of interaction, very Aquarian kind of, coming together and discussing, coming together and not having such a rigid hierarchy, but having a sense that the people involved, all people involved, need to play a role in this thing that's called governance. And
Absolutely.
and that's what makes the Constitution such an extraordinary document, such an absolutely amazing document. And and that's why it really is worth, I don't want to say fighting, that's the wrong word, but it's worth defending in some way,
Yeah.
because the Constitution also risks being dissolved with this Pluto at 29 Capricorn, because the Constitution itself, that Declaration of Independence, and then therefore the Constitution that comes from that, is
Mm-hmm.
a representation of this cycle of the Pluto cycle of the United States.
Yeah.
And it is extremely vulnerable at this particular moment where
Mm-hmm.
so many infringements have been made. I don't want this to get political because it freaks people out in the comments. It's just, it's unpleasant.
Yes.
um,
Yes.
but basically, just to say, we have some things in our world, in our social sort of Aquarian connection, that actually work, and so we need to really use that discernment, that Virgo discernment, to to understand what's worth saving and what can we let go, and and don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, and to really understand that to go forward, we also need to have something to bring with us that gives us a sense um, of continuity. Now, because as
Mm-hmm.
much as we want to dissolve and move away from everything, when we have the ancestors, and I'm going to just say that in a general sense, all the generations who've created, if we take the example of the states, created that document, created the country, etc., we have
Mm-hmm.
something that we should be grateful for, and we
Mm,
also have information and discernment to recognize what's dysfunctional in this moment, which I think Pluto is really striking, showing
mm.
us, powerfully. And we need to be able to keep our perspective on that to make the right choices going forward. Um, but
Absolutely.
yeah, but that I think again comes back to this notion of the wisdom that you were talking about, the bigger picture knowledge, the Pisces knowledge. And by the way, just before I finish what I'm saying here, I just wanted to emphasize to listeners that when we talk about these signs, we're talking about archetypal energies. So if you're a Virgo, there's nothing flawed. It's not like you're meant to be doing everything Pisces. It's that there's an energy of the archetype of these signs, and we're not talking about
Mm-hmm.
individuals. So you mustn't apply that to an individual as if they were somehow, yeah, flawed or inadequate or whatever. But all that just to say that your look at this dissolution, the quality of Pisces in this moment, and this recognition of what we need to leave behind, we can apply individually and we can apply it collectively. And it requires that we have to take that Virgo discernment with us into the understanding of what we want to let go of, or what we know with wisdom we should let go of. Um,
Right.
any last thoughts from your side before we have to wrap this up? I'd love to carry
Sure.
on talking with you, but
Um, last thought is that uh, we're still in Mercury retrograde, which started with Virgo,
mm,
and that retrograde suggests for us to be mindful of what it took to polish our crown and to take dignity in our own uh, autonomy, destiny, message, um, you know, overall, rather than the cookie cutter idea, that social agreement would have us to do. What did it take for you to crown yourself again? We helped you to get back there. Can you remember what it took so that you can honor it, reverence the wounds that bore you, you know, reverence the wounds that bore you? And so, Black Moon Lilith from October 3rd, 2023 to June 29th, 2024, um, was traveling through Virgo after she took down the false light in Leo. That is the false comparative light in Leo, okay, which Leo represents the light of our heart center,
mm,
the fifth house, which reflects the kingdom of God through our gifts and our wisdom. You understand? Um, Now, she went through Virgo and gave us a sense of dissatisfaction in an area that would mean efficiency for us, in an area that would mean well being for us, in an area that gave us access to uh, shining in our own light rather than in others' light. Now, with that being said, with a Mercury, with Mercury retrograde beginning in Virgo, and with Venus now passing through Virgo, she's going to finishing school. She's walking the books on her head. She's learning how to curtsy, how to sit up straight. You understand? we're putting manners back on our astral impulses. Temperance. Remembering that if we can remember these details, the beauty can last forever. It can last much longer. The good things that we like to enjoy or experience, it can last much longer if we can get the concept of delayed gratification in some sense as well.
mhm,
Diving into our movie. So, what I want to say is that the Black Moon Lilith transit is insightful for us with what we are going to work through with the South Node Virgo transit, okay, for those 18 months.
Can you repeat
So
the
if
dates
we
for us again, please? And for the Black Moon
sure,
Lilith in Virgo.
sure. So the Black Moon Lilith transit was October 3rd, 2023
Hmm.
until June 29th, 2024.
Okay.
We want to think back to that time, okay, October 3rd, 2023. What was burdening you where you had a sense of dissatisfaction, where you were saying to yourself, if I could just fix this, if I could just get this right, I could feel like I'm being myself. I can feel like I have my own light to shine. I could feel that I have efficiency in my life. I could feel like I really have well-being, you know. Virgo introduces us to well-being as Venus introduces us to the desires that we want to experience. So we can mistake one for love, and one that's not love for love. You understand? However, Virgo with well-being, that's where the love is really at.
Mhm.
You understand? So
Yeah.
where is our well-being at? And that may mean I need to apply some maturity and temperance. That means I may have to delay some things. That means I may have to have some, standing down power in certain, situations and circumstances to see, okay, even though it may not be the most pleasurable experience, this is good for me, you
Yeah.
know? So, what crisis were you in at that time where you knew for that 9 months you had to do whatever you needed to do maturely, take a mature direction to help yourself to reach a status of well-being or wellness in your life? Okay. Juno was passing through there as well. Okay, because Juno has been helping Black Moon Lilith. Okay, Juno has been saying, I'm going to give you the staying power. I'm going to help you to be monogamous to this focus. Don't worry, I got you. And
Mhm.
she's doing the same thing in Libra right now. As Black Moon Lilith goes through Libra, Black Moon Lilith is saying, it's a physical therapist. Chiron, we have an injury, to our ego. We have an injury to our identity. And we felt inadequate for what we realize God wants us to do. And so that Black Moon Lilith is acting as a physical therapist, right now. And she's asking, okay, put pressure here. Does it hurt? Okay, can you run now? All right, what happens if I do that? Okay, all right, good, 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 good. Oh, don't worry. I know it hurts, but it's not breaking, I promise you. There's nothing wrong. It's just a little pain. All right. So Black Moon Lilith is putting pressure to these places so that we can realize we really are healed. We really can run again. You tore that ACL, but you will be up and running in no time if you apply the pressure in the right places and keep exercising it. You understand? So for 9 months, she's going to go through Libra to give pushback to your Aries, to give resistance to your Aries, to give challenge to your Aries, so that you can realize, no, you are adequate. You do have enough, and God's grace makes up for every imperfection. You know, um, and so Juno is there to assist in saying, hey, I'm going to give you the monogamous staying power to see this through. You're not going to give up on yourself. You're not going to run. You're not going to panic. You're going to go down, but you're going to get right back up. Okay. So you are guaranteed success and victory. You understand? So anyway, I just wanted to share that detail,
That's brilliant.
with everyone, hopefully. And, you know, we should be proud of ourselves. We should. We're moving
Honestly,
through a lot.
exactly. That's a beautiful
Yes.
way to end this conversation. You should be proud of yourself for sure. I think you just have had such an extraordinary, uh, you've got some light in you that allows you to say things in such a profound way. Um, I think we've just lost him. Oh dear. I just want to say thank you so much to Bukola, and we will certainly have a conversation again. So much love to all of you, and we'll see you in the next video.